But we are just about getting ready to go over to the stage for our second top 16 match. Aaron, we already teased it a little bit. There's going to be a Volbeat, there's going to be an Espatra on these teams. So let's break it down even further now that we've got these two players sitting across from each other.
So Alex here using a really interesting hyper offense team. The idea, of course, is to use Volbeat to disrupt and set up state weather, right? So you've got the sun on the Typhlosion, you've got the rain on the Primarina, or sun to enable Typhlosion, rain to enable Primarina. You've also got the rain to enable the Archaludon, and then this really interesting core of Indeedee plus the Espatra as well. So the idea is I'm just going to hit you for a ton of damage. My damage is going to really be boosted. Imagine, you know, Typhlosion here, it's got the Charcoal, it's got Fire Terra, and it has Sunny Day support. Primarina here has that Choice Specs as well. And so when you have all of these multipliers, you can just start dealing so much damage immediately. Dawei, on the other hand, running a team that's very similar to a lot of the Porygon Annihilate teams we've seen thus far, but it does have Grimmsnarl, and it has the ability to, of course, set up screens. Annihilate here also exists without the beat-up combination from other Pokemon, which I think is really interesting. So the idea is, hey, Grimmsnarl is just going to set up screens. I'm going to just kind of stay on the field. You're going to have to deal with me eventually. As you hit me, I'm going to just stack up with the Rage Fist, and then you've got some pretty unique support here in that Volcarona as well.
Yeah, the Volcarona is also not going to be one of those more setup-oriented ones. It has Struggle Bug, which is going to be really nice coverage to have. You've got Will-O-Wisp on this Pokemon as well as the Rage Powder, just to redirect away any attacks. But I'm also looking at some of the other differences that we've seen from more of the P2 Ursaluna teams, where this Ursaluna does have access to both Headlong Rush as well as Earthquake, and the Porygon 2 has Tri-Attack over the Terra Blast that we've seen on some of these other Porygon 2s.
Yeah, and it's got the Shadow Ball and Trace, so a lot of interesting things that make this Porygon 2 stand out a little bit. I think what's interesting about this team is that you have a lot of different options offensively. You can go right into Golden Go, for example, and just deal massive amounts of damage. As we quickly take a look at Dawei's accomplishments, having made it to the top 32 of NAIC in back-to-back years, and top 16 even the year before. So top 32 or better basically in 3 consecutive NAICs, which is really impressive given how large NAIC has grown to.
Yeah, Dawei's been very, very consistent when being able to accumulate those results over the course of those last couple of years. But on the flip side of things, when we take a look at Alex, Alex does not have that same history or list of accomplishments, but is still going to be able to put on quite a show here. Was able to get top 64 in day 2, the Indianapolis Regional Championships last year, so still coming off of a high in terms of the end of the season, really rolling through that with this Volbeat and Espatra team.
Yeah, this is going to be the best tournament run he's had, and it's not over yet either, and this is easily one of the most unique teams that we've seen come out of this tournament. Once again, hyper offense, the idea is to just hit as hard as possible, and the Archaludon set here also interesting because it is the Power Herb set. You have, of course, Volbeat to set up the Rain Dance, but you won't always be able to guarantee that, right? And so with this, you're able to still get your Electro Shot off. And look at those other moves. Dragon Pulse, Aura Sphere. This isn't the typical Draco Meteor body press that we see. There's no Flash Cannon, no Steel type attack on this Archaludon either.
Yeah, this Archaludon is certainly going to be a bit more unique than the ones that we've seen already on stream, but I'm looking at the Primarina as also fitting the bill. It's going to be the Choice Specs as its held item alongside 4 movesets of Weather Ball, Hyper Voice, Moonblast, and Dazzling Gleam. And I think Weather Ball, that's the real big key here for me, knowing that it could be a Water type, or it also could be a Fire type attack with the Volbeat.
Yeah, I think what's so cool about this team is you have so many options, right? You can lead Volbeat with Typhlosion, you can lead Volbeat with Primarina, Volbeat with the Archaludon as well. You can lead Espatra, Indeedee. And I think what this team wants to do is basically force a defensive Terra out from your opponent. If you're able to force that defensive Terra out, then you can really say, okay, well now you have no other things that you can do to resist my attacks, right? And so, for example, in this matchup, I think Volbeat Typhlosion with Primarina in the back can be one really viable lead for him, Alex's end. But we're going to see Espatra here making an appearance here with the Typhlosion, so no Volbeat quite yet, but a lot of offense here immediately.
I love the Volcarona choice here as well. It does have Flame Body, so while it's not going to necessarily be able to actually do anything in terms of the physical attackers on Alex's side, because he has none, it still is able to actually Rage Powder something away and still potentially put things on a timer, as well as resisting something like that Typhlosion.
Yeah, I think one thing that's huge here is like Grimmsnarl is basically guaranteed to get Light Screen off. There's no way to stop it with something like Fake Out, for example. So I think what Dawei is probably setting up for is maybe Porygon 2 Ursaluna in the back, where you basically disrupt in the early game, use as much defense as possible to mitigate Alex's damage output, output, and then get what is your strongest attacker out in Ursaluna out immediately afterwards. So I'm curious to see if that is what's in the back, but this is a really defensive core, right? You're not going to do very much damage, so we'll see if Alex can do enough damage. You're going to be able to, of course, decrease special defense right now with that Lumina Crash.
Oh boy, and especially knowing that Alex is already going to go all out on the offense here with the Lumina Crash into this Volcarona, dealing just a little bit of damage. It's going to just be the Struggle Bug in response. That is a spread type damaging move. It's going to be able to chip away at both the Espatra and the Typhlosion. That was actually even a crit, which is kind of wild, but it's the special attack drop from the Struggle Bug, which is going to matter the most. Eruption now is going to come out here, going to do a little bit less damage because that is taking some damage there on the Typhlosion, but look at that. It's really nothing.
You'll notice as well that Volcarona, of course, does not eat the special defense drop from Lumina Crash. Normally it would drop special defense, but with that Covert Cloak, this is actually a really nice lead to mitigate the special defense drops. And there's Porygon and Ursaluna. I think the way to approach this game is to get Ursaluna out and set up Trick Room, but it's risky leading Porygon 2 in this matchup because Alex has Taunt with the, or you have to worry about Imprison from the Indeedee on the opposing side. Now Indeedee doesn't make an appearance, but if you lead Porygon and he gets Imprisoned, you can't set up Trick Room. So I like what Dawei is going for here, recognizing, you know what, I'm just going to basically drop your stats in the early game. I've got a lot of ways to drop your special attack. I can set up Light Screen. You don't have any physical attackers. This Grimmsnarl now may be free to start, going for disruptive moves like Spirit Break. We're just going to see another Lumina Crash, but it's still not doing that much damage. Alex is just looking to get some knockouts now.
And you are going to be able to do just that, as that Espatra is going to get the knockout with that double up there on the second turn. But the special attack getting dropped once again on this Typhlosion. You have the opportunity now, because you're Charcoal, to actually change up your move selection, but you're still going to go for this Eruption with that Terrifier. You still have a decent amount of HP, but look at that with the special attack drops and the Light Screen. Both of these Pokemon on Dawei's side are taking very minimal amounts of damage, and you get to follow that up again with another special attack drop thanks to that Spirit Break.
Yeah, this is a really clever lead. I think on paper, Grimmsnarl plus Volcarona does not look very offensive, but with the Espatra actually coming out here, being able to Struggle Bug it for super effective damage is a huge deal. This Typhlosion is in a really awkward spot right now, right? You kind of feel forced to switch out, but then how are you dealing enough damage still is the question. Dawei critically also still has Terra available, and it's just kind of waiting to bring out Porygon 2 and set up that Trick Room. So I think Dawei's game plan coming into this was honestly really brilliant, and I think Volbeat over the Espatra would have been able to exert a little bit more pressure here, because you can at least set up that Sunny Day and just allow Typhlosion to have that increase in damage. But that Covert Cloak on Volcarona is such a key item in this matchup. So Typhlosion is going to switch out, it's going to get rid of those special attack drops, and it's going to be Indeedee as the last one.
So Indeedee now on the field does put a little bit more pressure onto that Porygon 2, as you were calling out the Imprison for the Trick Room. It also has the opportunity here to go for Follow Me, but if you look at the Struggle Bug, it's still going to be able to do that spread damage, so that Follow Me isn't really going to help out here. It is P2 now taking the place of that Grimmsnarl on Dawei's side, but the Liquid Voice, oh boy.
Liquid Voice being traced, Struggle Bug here. This is one of the things that is really strong for Dawei. You can just so easily go for Struggle Bug and Light Screen because there's just no physical damage on the opposing side, right? So with Light Screen set up and with that Struggle Bug, look how little damage Porygon 2 takes from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be very difficult to take out. Eviolite being able to boost up the special defenses as well is another way that Dawei just can consistently be able to tank this damage from Alex's team.
Yeah, and now you can see Dawei's considering, do I want to bring the Grimmsnarl back up? Because Grimmsnarl's Spirit Break here is actually pretty reasonable damage as well, right? You could just go out into Ursaluna then. The one main debate here is, do you expect the Indeedee to go for that Imprison? If so, you could, of course, just go for damage here. You might not want to click that Shadow Ball. Fairy Terra here, really safe, and I like the decision to just click damage here, right? Alex's team really is able to snowball quickly when you are able to pick up knockout after knockout. But here, there's just so much defense from Dawei's end that when you're not being able to actually get these knockouts, it puts Alex in a really difficult spot. I think the Primarina now, especially with that special attack drop, wants to switch out, but this is such a good Fairy Terra now. You can knock out Indeedee and then set up Trick Room.
Yeah, and even if Indeedee does decide to go for Imprison here, it kind of doesn't really matter at that point. You're still allowing this Ursaluna to secure the knockout.
Right.
It forces Alex to have to bring in that Typhlosion again, which would be under even more threat, knowing that this Ursaluna just gets to go for spread damage with Earthquake. There's no way to actually mitigate that damage.
Exactly. So Primarina is now going to switch out into Typhlosion, but you know, Typhlosion's already taken a lot of damage as well. Those eruptions are just way less powerful. There's no sun, there's no way to drop the opposing special defense. So Dawei, with this early light screen, with no way from Alex's end to deny it, makes it really difficult. And yeah, Spathra just not able to do very much in this game. Fairy Terra here on Ursaluna, very safe to go for as well. Indeedee is going to go for that follow me. The idea is, hey, let me just sacrifice this so I at least have my 2 strongest attackers out. But with light screen still set up, I don't know how you really get through this Ursaluna, and I think Dawei's game plan into this game 1 was perfect.
And how do you even actually get a chance to attack when you know that the Trick Room's going to be going up at the end of this turn? We're going to see the Porygon 2 be able to get off attacks as well as this Ursaluna, the 2 fastest things in Trick Room.
Yeah, I think the Grimmsnarl Volcarona lead just so clever. I think if you're Alex and you want to adjust, one thing you might want to consider is maybe leading Volbeat with Typhlosion, Volbeat with Primarina in the future, right? Once again, I think the fact that Volcarona can just knock out the Espathra as easily as it did with Struggle Bug, this is not meant to be an offensive Volcarona, really, right? Like, it's got so much support with the Will-O-Wisp, with the Rage Powder as well, but to actually use it offensively and be able to drop your opponent's special attack is the absolute dream. So I think if you're Alex, you got to go back to the drawing board. If you expect the same lead, you got to exert a lot more offense against that combo on turn 1, but Earthquake here just going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even mind being able to hit your own Porygon 2. It is just so tanky that it's not even going to be bothered by that Earthquake, and this poor Primarina is going to be following up this Typhlosion very shortly after with this final attack, try-attack, and finish the job here, and Dawei wins game 1.
Wow, I mean, I think what's really interesting about Top Cut, yeah, like it's, you know, the game plans that you come up with, and I think for Dawei to recognize, I'm just gonna lead Grimmsnarl Volcarona, you have no way to prevent my light screen, and these special attack drops are so valuable, and even the added benefit of that Covert Cloak, right, being able to prevent that special defense drop from the Espathra on the opposing side is such a big deal, and so, yeah, Alex basically needs to go back to the drawing board, needs to exert a little bit more offense, and so I really look at that Volbeat. I think Volbeat being able to enable Weather immediately already increases your damage output, right? So consider something like a Volbeat Typhlosion lead where you can go for Sunny Day, Fire Terra, Eruption. You could also consider something like Volbeat Primarina. Primarina obviously exerts that super effective Hyper Voice into Volcarona.
Could also force the Terra out as well, so that Terra isn't available for the Ursaluna like it was in that last game. But I think it's really difficult because the Primarina has to make a choice very early on. Thanks to that choice mix, it can only lock into one specific thing. But you still have something like the Weather Ball, which is going to be doing insane amounts of damage if you are able to set up a weather for it.
Yeah, totally. I think what's tough about the matchup for Alex here is you have a lot of offense, but if you're not able to pick up big one-hit knockouts with this offense, it's already kind of tough, right? Because then you're just taking so much damage in response. Dawei having not only the Grimmsnarl, but also the Struggle Bug on Volcarona just makes it so much tougher for Alex to get those knockouts early. But if Alex can at least maybe get a ton of damage off immediately, make it difficult to just, you know, set Porygon up and Ursaluna as easily, then I think that can be an advantage. But no Volbeat here. It's going to be Indeedee Primarina. So opting to go for potential support with the Indeedee. It's got the Hyper Voice here, and of course, this Indeedee lead would cover for Porygon 2 being led.
Yeah, but the problem is still persistent. You have 2 special attackers on this field with this Volcarona on the other side. Struggle Bug, Struggle Bug, Struggle Bug, both Indeedee and Primarina are going to be at a loss in that way for special attack output.
Totally, yeah. The question here is, like you called out earlier, do you want to potentially go for the Terra here with Volcarona? Like, you know, Volcarona is honestly just in such a good spot here because of the speed, where, yeah, like, Indeedee now forced to switch out, so I think Alex may have been trying to predict a lead mix-up here, trying to catch that Porygon 2 in, doesn't come out, so it sets up the Psychic Terrain, yeah, prevents the taunt, but that's basically it. So Light Screen is set up, and the speed interaction here is that Volcarona is faster, so now you just get the Struggle Bug once again against both of these Pokemon, and this is just such an effective strategy.
It's still not going to be very effective, so the damage is going to take a little while to actually start to stack up, but as you were calling out, the longer that this game goes on, the more that Dawei is going to be able to gather momentum and really keep these special attackers in check. Even now, when you take a look at how little damage that these 2 Pokemon have even taken from Liquid Hyper Voice, you're safe to Terra. You also know what this Primarina is going to be locked into.
Yeah, Dawei recognizes, look, Ursaluna is so good into my opponent's team, but in order to get it enabled, I need to first of all set up Trick Room, and then I need to get it out without it having taken too much damage. So this lead does such an effective job in doing so. And yeah, Indeedee being led here does not exert that much offensive pressure, right? There's actually no helping hand on it, for example, so you can't just increase the damage output of Primarina. And what's awkward here for Alex is that the Primarina is outsped by Volcarona as well, so you just eat up the Struggle Bug before you get your damage off. So a -1 Hyper Voice in Light Screen, so much weaker than normal, right? So Primarina now forced to switch out. Typhlosion, of course, does exert a little bit of pressure with that Eruption, and the idea is to bring out Infinity so you can catch Porygon as it switches in, imprison in the subsequent turn. But Struggle Bug still looks quite solid.
Yeah, I mean, the Typhlosion's going to have to eat another special attack drop. Unless you want to end up committing an Terra once again, you're still going to be looking at maybe not able to just get through this Volcarona, especially when this is going to be the Dragon Terra on top of the Volcarona. Very safe when you know you've got elemental damage on the other side.
Exactly, yeah, this allows you to resist the fire type attacks. You've gotten that special attack drop on the opposing side as well, but Struggle Bug continues to come out once again, and yeah, for a move that's supposed to be solely defensive, like when you're up against Psychic-type Pokemon, being able to deal as much damage with it is so meaningful here. So that is just continuing to chip away. Here's Eruption now, but the Volcarona takes such little damage from it. And now Porygon just in such a good spot. Now, at least, Infinity can go for the Imprison, right? But if you go for Imprison, you just keep eating Struggle Bug up. I think this Dragon Terra is so smart, recognizing, well, hey, Volcarona, it just is not going to get knocked out anytime soon, so I think you're free to just click Struggle Bug with it once again. Porygon here now, of course, could try attack into the Infinity. You, of course, could click Trick Room, but Trick Room is actually kind of awkward because Primarina in the back is going to outspeed you under Trick Room, so I like the idea of just going for damage here. Let's, like, knock out the Infinity, let's set up Trick Room, and then let's get Ursaluna out. But Struggle Bug comes out once again, and this is just such a nightmare for this specially oriented team to deal with.
Yeah, oh, goodness gracious. I mean, you've got the special attack drop onto the Indeedee again, but it still looks like it's going to be a guaranteed 3-hit knockout onto that Indeedee. So what more can it really do in this game as Typhlosion? I mean, we're looking at the Porygon 2 and this Volcarona at the tanning salon right now. But see the Imprison, but it's just not going to fall for it as Dawei gets a chance to get the tri-attack and the freeze onto the Indeedee.
Yeah, I don't think the freeze matters too much, but just adding a little bit of insult to injury here.
It's just salt.
Yeah, I am really impressed by Dawei's play in this entire set. I think it's basically been flawless. I think recognizing the strength of Grimmsnarl plus Volcarona is really strong. I think Alex basically already had a really uphill matchup here and needed to exert more pressure. The reality is, though, when you're only running special attackers, right, there's not a single physical attacker on Alex's side. Light Screen plus a way to decrease your special damage is just so threatening here. So Struggle Bug knocks out the Infinity. It's another Pokemon down. Of course, now Dawei still can have that Ursaluna in the back and just set up for Trick Room. So I don't really think it's possible for Alex to win this one, to be honest, but let's see.
It's so tough because you still need to be able to take a turn to get this Typhlosion out of there. I mean, the Shadow
15
Ball,
damage.
It's just a tickle as this Porygon 2 undoes all of the damage that Alex has worked so hard to put down onto that Pokemon. Alex is forced in this position to have to put another Pokemon on the field. I think this Typhlosion is at -3 at this point, with the Light Screen still intact for Dawei's side.
Okay, well, Spathra has hit the field. You do have expanding force with it now, but Typhlosion kind of feels forced to switch out, right? And so I like the decision to not Trick Room on the earlier turn, right? You don't want to Trick Room because then the speed interaction is a little bit awkward. Might as well just get your healing out. I think now Dawei can consider going for Trick Room so that you get Ursaluna out as Volcarona is KO'd. And once again, I mean, this Spathra is still taking damage from the Volcarona as well. So yeah, when I came into this game, I thought like, okay, Ursaluna is the main win condition. You need to get that out. But so far, Volcarona has proven to be more than strong enough.
Oh, such an MVP of this match already. I was thinking maybe there's a world where Spathra gets a chance to like go for a Protect, you get the speed boost, and then you actually outspeed the Volcarona. But this is such a pin right now from Dawei.
Yeah.
Because even if you get the speed boost, Trick Room goes up, you get the Primarina in, but at what cost when this Typhlosion is able to reset its stat drops? Are we even going to be outside of Trick Room for it to be able to take advantage of that?
Yeah, I like this. I mean, you might as well just go for the Psychic Terra, just maximize your expanding force damage this turn, knock out the Volcarona, get damage on a Porygon, but then you're still playing against the Porygon plus Ursaluna in the end game. So expanding force here. Let's see. I mean, a critical hit on a Porygon could be huge, but Volcarona here, I would expect to faint. It does, but look how little damage Porygon takes from that. It's Psychic Terrain boosted and Psychic Terra boosted in a barely dense Porygon.
Wow, that's the Eviolite in the Light Screen putting in a lot of work there. So the Trick Room goes up and a free switch in now for this Ursaluna to be able to come in and sweep the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And the Psychic Terrain is gone.
And Espathra gets a speed boost, but it really doesn't want that right now. So Ursaluna now safe to come out, threatened with so much damage. And I think there really isn't a single turn I can point to in this game where I was like, oh, I think like Dawei had a better move to make. Honestly, I think Dawei played it flawlessly. They recognized the advantage that they had with the Grimmsnarl plus Volcarona lead. They recognized how good Ursaluna was into Alex's team, and Hyper Offense generally does not like going up against Trick Room. Normally, you counteract that with the Imprison Trick Room combination on the Indeedee, but Dawei doesn't need to lead the Porygon, right? You don't actually feel the rush to set up Trick Room immediately, and with Alex having that Imprison Trick Room combo, what Dawei wanted to do was get rid of Indeedee, then set up Trick Room, and they were able to accomplish that perfectly both games.
Yeah, it is very hard to see a path to victory here for Alex in this set. But we just have to commend Dawei for how beautiful this game has really played out. There's still maybe like the focus sash, maybe targeting here. Maybe Alex is able to secure another knockout, but you just buy a turn for this Ursaluna to just go for the protect, get the Flame Orb Guts boost for this next turn, and Shadow Ball now is going to be doing a ton of damage.
Yeah, this was like the one turn where if Dawei made a mistake and you let Primarina critical hit Hyper Voice you, then maybe that's a path back in, but Dawei just goes for the safe play once again, goes for that Protect. You get that Flame Orb online. Now that Primarina does not have Protect, right? So now you can just easily go for a Headlong Rush into that slot and Shadow Ball once again into the Espathra. So yeah, honestly, like critical hits were always going to be, I think, the only potential way to get back into this. Dawei doesn't even offer that opportunity by going for that play. Now you can go for another Shadow Ball here and then just go for, yeah, exactly, the Headlong Rush into Primarina. And there's really nothing you can do to stop this with 3 turns of Trick Room still left.
No, Primarina is also maybe not one of the bulkiest Pokemon that we've actually seen in this
I don't think it's going to survive
either,
this one.
So I don't know, with the Guts boost, not looking so great for Primarina here. It is going to go down without a fight. And with this special defense drop and that defense drop, you kind of would have hoped that this Primarina would get a chance to move, but there's just too much HP on the side of this Porygon 2 as well.
Yeah, and with Trick Room set up, like Espathra, it's just a nightmare for Trick Room, for it to go up against Trick Room, right? Because you just constantly boost your speed, you're slower than everything. So yeah, this game felt like it was a huge uphill battle already, and to me, like one of the critical turns was the Dragon Terra just to survive for even longer with Volcarona, knocking out the Indeedee and then Porygon 2 coming out. But patient play by Dawei, going for never a play that felt super risky, and I think for Alex, actually, Volbeat may have been able to benefit a little bit if you were able to bring it out here and pressure with, you know, your weather, but the Indeedee lead maybe trying to catch the Porygon 2. Porygon 2 isn't led, and so Alex is just forced to switch immediately, and being down on the leads in a matchup that's already not favored does not feel good.
You still go for the out that you can, though, and that would have been being able to get a triple protect here on that Espathra, and now you need the double protect on the Hisuian Typhlosion in order to stall out these final turns of Trick Room and give yourself a fighting chance. But that Espathra failed. That double protect is going to get knocked out here to the Shadow Ball, and it just comes down to this Ursaluna being able to potentially finish the job on this next one. Grimmsnarl also gets a chance to come in and to even like set up another light screen if it wants to.
Yeah.
There it goes.
And you know, this match looked quite one-sided, but you have to give both players credit. First of all, I mean, Alex using such a cool team to make it this far, and Dawei for recognizing what your advantages are, right? Just because you have matchups in the tools in the matchup, you know, so excited to see that finish. But congratulations, first of all, to Dawei, and congratulations to Alex as well. The point I wanted to make is just because you have tools in the matchup, you still have to find those tools. You know, Rose, you and I were talking about this game beforehand. In my head, I told you, I was like, I don't think Volcarona comes out in this one. But then, like, the combination of Struggle Bug plus Grimmsnarl is so powerful, and to identify that and recognize this just allows me to always get Porygon in safely and Ursaluna in safely afterwards is so, so powerful. So being able to recognize what advantages you have and then executing them, so well done. And for Alex, I think, you know, it was already really difficult, and the Indeedee lead, you know, I kept calling out Volbeat, but I think you might expect Dawei to make a mix-up, right? Because you're thinking, oh, like, sure, they might go for an adjustment here. And so I can definitely respect the Indeedee lead, maybe trying to catch the Porygon 2 in. But yeah, Espathra, when you're up against, like, Covert Cloak, honestly a nightmare of an item.
Look at that.
If there wasn't Covert Cloak in game 1, then the Typhlosion actually does so much more damage to the Volcarona as well. But such a critical item. Normally you use the Covert Cloak to block fake outs, but here being able to block that special defense drop is huge.
It really is. And so right off the bat, it felt like Dawei was just a couple of steps ahead in terms of those game 1 leads and then being able to continuously use the struggle bug. Like this poor Typhlosion, it is just out here trying its best. And I'm sure being able to get to this point, Alex was able to put a lot of trust into that Pokemon to really do that damage. You got to top 16 for a reason with this team. Just unfortunately going to fall a little bit short here. But I love that we get a chance to give Alex those flowers because top 16, especially at an event like this, in such an open meta, really is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, and Dawei now advancing on, of course, to the top 8. And coming into the matchup, you know, we're talking about Porygon 2, Ursaluna, that's fairly common, but you have some really fun tools here. The Grimmsnarl and Volcarona were MVPs of this match, right? And normally the Porygon is supported by classic things like Incineroar and Amoonguss, but those Pokemon are pretty priced into the metagame. Everyone expects them. I think this Volcarona and Grimmsnarl combination just makes it so much harder to deal with, and to have such a defensive lead, also be able to put out some offense, you know, like Spirit Break, Struggle Bug, Overheat. The damage from it can slowly add up as well, and the whole idea is to just whittle away so that your Porygon 2 can safely set up Trick Room. So Dawei, yeah, I mean, one of the most impressive players from the North American International Championships having made it so far. This is going to be their first top 8 at a major tournament. Yeah,
it's very exciting to see if Dawei can even take that a step further and maybe even be our very first regional champion for the 2025 season and add that to their list of accomplishments. Fantastic choices all around. I mean, even just looking at the Porygon 2's attacks, didn't get a chance to call out the Shadow Ball before we got into that match, and then that also played a huge part when we see a lot of Porygon 2 right now running that Fighting Terra Blast.
That's right.
And Ice Beam.
Yeah, it's a different take on Porygon 2 Ursaluna, and it has a lot of, like, you know, the Golden Go here, also interesting because a lot of people like using the Nasty Plot sets on those teams. This one is just choice specs, right? So what I like about Dawei's team is you have a lot of immediate offense as well. Yes, Grimmsnarl and Volcarona, that is a more passive duel, but imagine just leading Golden Go Volcarona, turn 1, Rage Powder, go for Terra. Oh, you don't need a Terra because it's not Steel Terra Golden Go, but just Rage Powder and make it rain immediately. That's just so much damage. And Pokemon is a game, especially where once you make it to top cut, you're obviously going to be facing against so many good opponents, and matchups can play a really big deal here as well. And honestly, I think Alex probably rolled one of the worst matchups possible, right? You are up against a team that has guaranteed light screen and has something to drop your special attack stat. And when your whole team is special attackers, there's just not really too many options Alex had. I think even if he had considered going with Volbeat, Typhlosion, Volbeat with Primarina, it still would have been a huge uphill battle, because the reality is you do not have a way to really pressure that Porygon for a knockout. It's very difficult to stop the Struggle Bug, and for Volcarona to just outpace the Pokemon on Alex's team naturally makes it that much more difficult, because Volbeat can't just set up Tailwind and Weather simultaneously. You can only do one at a time.
Yeah, and Spapthrow could never turn off its weakness to the Struggle Bugs either, so like...
The fact that I just fainted to 2 Struggle Bugs!
You just never imagine things like that. I mean, yeah, the Volcarona also had an opportunity to go for Overheat, so like there is offensive pressure there, but Struggle Bug was certainly not on my list of moves that I thought Volcarona would be able to use to such high value.
Yeah, and it's a move that is so good into a lot of different team composition. If you think about like Hard Trick Room, for example, right? The versions with Indeedee and Hatterene and Torkoal.
Yeah.
This Dragon Terra plus Struggle Bug plus Grimmsnarl having Light Screen means that you can continuously disrupt those attackers as well and just drastically reduce their damage output. This team has 2 really powerful Pokemon in the Ursaluna, in the Annihilate, so a lot about it is kind of waiting for those Pokemon to come in safely. And against, you know, other teams that don't have a light screen, you know, you can't, or reflect, you can just do a lot more damage, burst them with super effective damage. The Ursaluna here also Fairy Terra. We've seen different Terras being used. Some people use Ghost Terra. We've seen normal Terra even being used to up your damage output of Facade. But yeah, I really like the Fairy Terra choice defensively here. And I really like Dawei's take here on Porygon 2 Ursaluna. A lot of the other Porygon 2 Ursaluna teams in this tournament have felt super similar. This one's saying, well, I'm going to use the same Pokemon, but have a lot of different tricks.
I really like that the Annihilate is on this team as well, just because it does have access to Defiant. There's still a lot of Intimidate users in the meta, so it's nice to know that you have this Annihilate as a check to any of those Intimidators that might want to get the Intimidate drops onto Ursaluna. Like, that's normal strategy to use, but it's really risky now.
It is, yeah. But that was an exhilarating match. Congratulations to Dawei, who I believe we actually have an interview with, so let's just jump right to that.
Oh, no. Hi, I'm currently on the floor right now with our top top 16 winner, another member of the top 8, Dawei. Dawei, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling very, very good. It was my first stream match, and I think I played it very well and won it. I'm just very happy.
Can you tell us a little bit about the thought process behind the team that you've built? This Volcarona is very unique in my opinion. Can you tell us more about that?
So it's like everyone is thinking like the Cuba dance Volcarona is very strong, but also everyone is countering that. So I just want to use like a different kind of Volcarona, and it just works very well in this team. And especially against my opponent, he had a very special team, but it was an issue is it was so much special attackers, so many special attackers. So my light screen and the struggle bug was just doing very well.
Usually when you see Hisuian Typhlosion on the other side carrying that Choice Specs, carrying that Terra Fire, you're expecting a lot of damage out, but you're right, that struggle bug and that light screen definitely helped out a lot. What about your thought process going into the matchup, going up against your opponent?
Yeah, so basically I saw the team and I thought the struggle bug just ran over it. So yeah, that was just the plan. And bringing also Porygon 2 and Ursaluda in the back, considering they didn't have much protect or something to stall the Trick Room. So it was kind of easy, like relatively easy matchup for me.
You've top 32'd a couple of international championships now. What would winning this regional championship mean to you?
Yeah, so yeah, I had some achievements in like top 32, and I actually also got one top 16 before, but I never been in like made it into any top 8. So it is already like a very special moment for me. But I think I will win it like overall. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to look over, you know, the rest of the bracket? Are there any players that?
No, not yet.
Do you have any players that you're kind of nervous to face off against?
I'm not sure right now. Actually, I think anyone in the top card is so good. I respect all of them, and I will try to win it.
I'll go ahead and let you go prepare for your next match. It's going to be a very important match. Before I let you go, though, do you have any shout-outs that you want to make to anybody that's watching the broadcast right now?
Yeah, so shout-outs to my partner Lisa and the ones in my building group, like Zach, Harrison, and Gavin. And also all the people that helped me practice the matchups, like Mel, Guli, and everyone supporting me. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dawei. We're going to go ahead and throw it to a quick break, but when we come back, more action here from Baltimore.